What's up YouTube, Missing No VGC here, and today we're doing another Kaijudo deck profile. A few months ago on the Rangers Dojo Facebook group, I had posted a poll on which deck people would like to see next, and Light Dark Kalima won with 50% of the vote, which does not surprise me at all. Everybody loves Queen Kalima. Something to note is that this deck is almost card for card the exact same build that Modest Duels put out. Aside from maybe like 3 or 4 different card choices. I was a bit hesitant to post this at first, but I got the okay from him because he says we need more Kaijudo content out there. And like, it's Queen Claima. Come on. The differences that are in this deck were choices that were made by my daughter because this is her preferred deck. This is the deck that got her into the game to begin with. So any choices that, like I said, that were done were made by her. So we'll get things started. We start off with 3 copies of Stingwing. I feel this is the best overall starter for the deck. However, the downside is it is a dual civ starter. So if you don't have the light and the darkness by turn 2, you are a little bit screwed there. I also don't like that it dies if it wins. But I do feel that overall this is the better card to start with in this deck. Just 2 for 45 is very scary looking. And I feel it's one of the better light dark cards that you could be playing in the game. Next we play 3 copies of Targusher. As stated in a previous video, Targusher is one of my favorite cards of all time. This card is nuts. If it swings and dies, you slay and then tap a creature. And that's a lot for this little guy to do. At first I was like, oh, the 3 for 1500, that sucks. When you see this ability, it's like, it definitely pulls its weight, and this card's a real MVP of the deck most times. Next card is 3 copies of Scare Adorable of Gloom Hollow. This card has always been a very good card. It's very solid. It's great at holding back things like Rush. Just ability to just stop all kinds of things and then just start swinging because it doesn't have Skirmisher when you want to start picking off shields. Highly recommend this card. It's really good and always has been. Next we have 3 copies of Mesmerized. If you're playing Dark and you're not playing Mesmerized, there's probably an error going on. Mesmerized is just super good. Look at your opponent's hand, discard a card. I mean, that's really good, really powerful for early game. Get early knowledge of what your opponent's playing if you haven't figured out from the mana plays. Possibly get rid of some good cards I want to keep for late game. So yeah. 2 copies of Snake Trap. Now this is a card that I bought multiple boxes of Invasion, and I never once paid any attention to this card. This card gives enemy creature minus 2,000 power. So it picks off birds. It picks off Jarbala Hatchery. I cannot tell you how many times I have played Jarbala Hatchery and my daughter immediately has the Snake Trap to get rid of it. Every single time I play Jarbala Hatchery, she has the Snake Trap like clockwork. I don't know how she does it. It's a really good card that I feel is kind of overlooked as well. Like I said, I overlooked it. I never even knew this was a card until I saw his video. I'm like, wow, I have like 40 of these just sitting in a box somewhere. So, pretty good. Next, we have 3 copies of Spire Puppet. This card is also MVP of the deck. Just when you play it, opponent randomly discards a card from their hand. It's just a really good light dark card. I really like Spire Puppet. Probably my top 15 favorite cards of the game. Next is 2 copies of Screeching Scare Adorable. This is another card that I've always kind of overlooked. Like after I guess 7 came out, I never really looked at this card again. But this card does a lot. It banishes anything that's level 2 or less when you play it, or if it's not level 2, you can stop something from blocking for the turn. This is a very solid card. It's really good at what it does. She's always dropping this on me whenever I have something like a Cyber Scamp out. That really sucks. This card's just so good. It gets rid of bigger blockers like Aqua Strider, that's obnoxious. It's just a really solid card that people should look into. We have 3 copies of Bone Blades, which, I mean, it's Bone Blades. It's one of the best removal spells in the game. There are so many good level 4s this just gets rid of. They can just completely blow out your opponent. It's probably my favorite thing about open format is the ability to play Bone Blades again, because this card is just so good and it pretty much defines the Darkness Civ. So next is one of the changes that she made from Modest's build. He played 2 copies of Shredmane, but she doesn't really like Shredmane, and she opted to play 2 copies of Maddening Whispers instead. She liked the idea of just constantly messing with the opponent's hand. And there have been so many times where she's just played on curve where she'd be like, oh, activate mesmerized, and I lose a card. Then she's like, all right, next turn drop Spire Puppet, and the next turn drop Maddening Whispers, and like before you know it, you're out like an entire hand. You have like no mana, you have no hand. It's pretty good, and it happens so often that it feels very unfair when it happens. Next, we have 3 copies of Lyra the Blazing Sun. As I said before, Lyra is the perfect card. 6 for 6, Double Breaker, taps target enemy creature, and it doesn't untap at the beginning of their turn. Solid for control, solid for mid-range. This card just does so much, and whenever you see it, there's a chance it could turn the entire game into your favor if you're losing. But if you're already losing and your opponent drops this, you're going to lose even harder. Lyra is just such a good card. Next, we have 2 copies of Trox. I had quit the game before Trox had come out. I quit actually when they introduced rotation, but I feel like if I would have known that Trox was a thing, it would have got me back into the game, because Trox is really good. It rolls off any darkness, and then whenever it attacks, you can unleash and just name a card and remove all copies of the card that your opponent has that are on the field. Just wipes anything. As far as I know, this can handle Eternal Haven. I'm not 100% positive, but that's how I've been using it. So if I'm wrong, let me know. 3 copies of Terrapin, because it's Terrapin. Terrapin's amazing. 3 copies of Mark of Claima. I absolutely resented this card for the longest time. I didn't think it was good. I really never really saw reason to play it, which I feel is the wrong mindset to be having, because this card essentially is another Terrapin with chance. So it has 2 effects for those of you that don't know. You can either play Queen Claima from your hand, so you get a Claima out 2 turns sooner, or you can mill the top 2 cards of your deck, and for any darkness card that was sent to that was banished this way, your opponent chooses 2 of their creatures in the battle zone and banishes them. So I like that it is double removal. I don't like that your opponent gets to choose. But then if you're controlling the game as well as, in theory, you should be, your opponent's probably going to have like 2 cards anyway. So Mark Kalima is actually really good. I didn't like the randomness of it before, but almost every card in this deck is dark aside from 2 different monsters. So I honestly can't justify not playing this anymore. This card is definitely changed in my opinion. Next, we have 2 copies of Andromeda of the Citadel. Modest only played 1, but my daughter does not like Underworld Stalker. In open format, we both agree that it's kind of ass and open. I want to say Modest also said it wasn't necessarily the best card in open format. But she'd much rather play Andromeda. I know it's weird taking out a 5-drop to play a 9 instead. But in her opinion, she would rather have this card more often than having a card that she doesn't like playing at all. which I can kind of see. Andromeda's like one of the best cards in the game, if not the best card in the game. It does so much for the deck. You get shield regeneration. You have even more control when your opponent tries to swing at you. Andromeda's just such a good card. It was such a mistake. And the last card is, of course, 3 copies of Queen Kalima. It's such a good boss monster. It has 16,000 power, triple breaker. All other darkness creatures gain plus 4,000 power. Whenever it attacks, you get to choose a card in your discard pile and add it back to your hand. And whenever Queen Claima hits the field, you get to mill the top 3 cards of your deck, and for every darkness card that you mill, your opponent gets to choose and destroy one of their creatures. It's just a really good boss monster. There's only 2 cards that were printed that have a higher power than it, being Almighty Colossus and Infernus Emulator. If it would have been printed, Ultimate Sirion obviously was a higher power, but that card was absolutely absurd at 24,000 power. I'm kind of glad we never got it. Still trying to figure out how to make that card good, though, because I have some copies printed up that I really want to mess with. But, yeah, Queen Kalima is just a fantastic deck. We really like it. We like Modest's approach to how to build the deck. And overall, we feel that his approach is the best approach on how to build it. Like I said, I think there's only 3 cards difference. That she really wanted to play that extra Andromeda, and she really liked the maddening whispers over the shred main. I want to say Modest has over time added Lurking Skullcutter to his deck as well. I had thrown that idea at her, but she really likes how it is now, so I'm not going to argue with it. But yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know what other decks you guys would like to see. And I'll hopefully be back again soon with another deck profile for the decks that were also on the poll. Thank you for watching.